Namaskar, this is Sai Sudhir from Mahatma Gandhi National Council of Rural Education. Welcome to the lecture series on rural supply chain management. In the last video, we discussed on the introduction to supply chain management. In this video, we are going to discuss on the impact of globalization on supply chain management. So let's see what is globalization and the impact of globalization on supply chain management. And also in this video we are going to know about the top 10 countries in the top 10 economies in the world. An American economist said that the raw fact is for every successful economic development of any nation, it is because of globalization. Globalization is trying to integrate various economies in the world. Before discussing more on globalization, I would like to highlight on three important things. One is dependence, one is independence, and the other one is interdependence. Some of us would like to depend for certain things on others. Some of us would like to be independent. Some of us would like to be interdependent. What do you mean by this? If a country would like to depend on the resources that they possess, whatever resources that I am having, I just want to utilize my own resources. I just want to utilize the things that are there with me, and if I don't want to go and take the support of any other nation, then what it is called as? I want to be independent. I want to be independent. So whatever resources I am having, whatever sources I am having, whatever capabilities I am having, whatever skills I am having, I am trying to utilize the things on my own. So I want to develop my own selves. I want to be an independent nation. And in some cases, some countries would like to be depending on others. I want your manpower, I want your financial resources, I want your so and so resources. So they want to depend on the other countries for their development. In that case, some nations are dependent. And in the other way, there are some nations which are interdependent. I have this resource, I can provide this resource to you, and I want your resource, I want your support, I want to take your support in this. In that case, I want to be interdependent. So whenever we are talking about globalization, where we want to create a borderless world, where we want to take the support of other nations for the development of the entire world, in such case globalization plays a prominent role. In supply chain management also, we are trying to integrate the suppliers, the distributors, the retailers and the customers of the entire world. Supplier may be in some other country, customer may be in some other country, a distributor might be in some other country. So we are trying to integrate all these people through this approach called as globalization. So how we are trying to integrate? What is the main focus area in integration of this globalization concept? So we have foreign trade, we have private and institutional foreign investment, which are considered to be the main focus areas in globalization, whereas the main aim of the world is to transform the world towards independence and integration of the world by the way of globalization, and setting various strategic policies. What are the various policies which we have to follow in coming out with a proper way of globalization approach? So how we can transform? How we can transform with the proper approach of globalization, that we will discuss further. So what are the various forms of globalization? Let's talk about various forms that are there in globalization. In what ways we can do, in what ways we can approach, in what ways we can integrate with other countries with a proper approach. Basically, businesses operate across the world in the global markets, and one is having their presence in various markets, one is having presence in one market, having operations across the world, and financing, taking the support of financial aspects from different parts of the world and connecting with various supply chains across the world. It basically takes the form of selling in the foreign markets, or producing in the foreign lands, or purchasing things from the foreign suppliers, and also partnering with the foreign firms. Whatever it may be, whether we are trying to extract things from other countries, whether we are trying to get the support from other nations, whether we are trying to do business with other countries, whatever the form we are doing business, we need to create a proper reason why we are going global. What is the reason why we are going global? So we have to highlight the needs, highlight the reasons why we are going global. So let's talk about why we are going global. What is the purpose of going global? Companies would like to reduce cost, companies would like to get good manpower, companies would like to get skilled resources in terms of manpower, companies would like to get proper financial support, companies would like to get quality raw material, companies would like to get effective and efficient way of resources in doing their things in a better way, because the value that we are going to provide to the customer through proper supply chain management, in that context companies would like to go global basically to reduce their cost in one way and to see that how best they can add value to the customers. So in this context, the basic thing is to take advantage of the favorable cost. What is the best possible way of reducing the cost that I am incurring here? And one is to gain access to the international markets, which I am focusing on, or which I would like to spread my aspects in future. And also companies would like to see that the changes that are taking place in demand of their products, how I can create a favorable changes for my products, and how I can create a response for the change that is there in the demand. In this context also I will think on how I can go to the other countries and how I can think of this globalization in this perspective. Apart from that, even we have one more aspect of looking at the supplying condition, supply. What are the sources that we are looking at? Getting raw materials, getting product components, the best kind of technology which is available with other nations. So how we can get certain things from the other countries, that also we will focus. And very importantly, we are talking about one more thing called as to keep updated of our technologies. Today when we talk about our technologies, the drastic development of technologies or the way of development in technologies, how countries are taking a kind of race towards technologies, it's growing day by day. So how we are going to take that in a possible way which helps us in terms of increasing value to the customer and in terms of also reducing the costs. So when we talk about technology, in our childhood we might be studying A for apple, B for boy, C for cat, like that. And today if we talk about technology, it starts with A for artificial intelligence, B for blockchain, C for cloud computing, D for data analytics, E for e-commerce, so what not. So such a way technologies are growing rapidly, and we want to capture those technologies from different nations and see that how we can utilize those technologies in a right way. So it is not only about identifying the technologies in other nations, we have to also see that how these technologies can be incorporated in a right way so that it helps us in meeting our requirements. So especially in supply chain management we are talking about in terms of adding value to the customer, in terms of reducing the costs. So how we can, what type of technology helps us in adding value to the customer? So if I want to send products to the customer, I have to see that how these products can be reached to the customer in a right time or in a less time with less cost. At the same time, what is the way in which I can look at reducing the cost? How can I reduce my production cost? How can I reduce my costs in terms of managing storage or in terms of transit? So where I can reduce my cost? Is there any kind of technology that helps me in reducing the cost? So I have to connect with the kind of nations from where I can get the technology in such a way. So these are certain reasons where we can consider to go global, and what is the way for it? So how I can pave a way for this globalization? World Trade Organization, they came out with a kind of aspect like especially there are specific industries such as agriculture, textiles, telecommunications. They have extended their scope of this international trade rules to cover the services as well as the goods. They paved a way for that. How this is basically helping in terms of eradication of various trade barriers, the trade barriers that we have especially in such kind of segments. This helps through globalization. And there is one more impact which we have to focus, that is on there are certain standards which we have to focus, which are especially highlighted by the European Union. So what type of strategies we have to focus, what type of alliances we have to come out with, we have to think about the quality standards, we have to think about the environmental constraints. So whenever we are trying to connect with various nations, we have to focus on various elements such as the quality constraints, the quality factors, as well as the environmental standards which we have to follow. So especially in certain sectors such as agriculture, in certain industrial areas such as agriculture, textiles, telecommunications. So what kind of alliances we are looking at? Whenever we are trying to collaborate with some nations, what type of alliances we are looking at? Why we are looking at that particular nation? So whether when we are going to that alliance with that particular country, whether that is going to help us a lot or not, whether it is a strategic alliance which is a long term benefit for both the nations or not, is there any hidden drawbacks in that or not? We have to assess all such parameters whenever we are trying to enter into any kind of strategic alliance with any nation. At the same time, even we have to give a primary role for research. Before taking any decision, whenever we are going to enter into any agreement or any alliance with any country for any kind of resource support or any kind of collaborative approach, we have to do a proper research. Where the resources are available, why we are going to connect with this nation, is it good to connect with this nation, is it safe for us, is it secure for us, whether it is beneficial for both the countries. So all such aspects we have to also assess whenever we are trying to connect with any other nation or build a strategic alliance with any other country. And when we talk about the top 10 economies in the world, so India stands in number 5 position in terms of its GDP, where we are focusing on reaching or constructing or becoming a $5 trillion of economy in the coming years. So India is having that potentiality or not, we have to assess that. And before that, the first position is there with United States of America. USA is leading in the top position in the top 10 economies, strongest or the kind of best economies in the world in terms of its GDP. And when we talk about India, companies such as Infosys, Wipro, TCS, HCL, these are all world leaders in software development. And the business processes, if we take the business processes that we have, how we are taking support from other nations, at the same time how we are providing support to the other countries, even if it is United States also, it is USA or UK or any other nation, we are trying to provide that support either in terms of manpower or in terms of technology, whatever the way. So the top 10 economy stands United States of America, followed by China, then Japan, then Germany and India, and followed by United Kingdom, France, Italy, Brazil and Canada. And there is one more aspect which we have to see, that when we talk about China, China has a global factory across the world. Why China is becoming as a global factory for the world? How it is contributing to the world? More than 70% of the American companies, they are depending for spare parts or raw materials or any kind of product components from China, even as on day. And India is also having its imports on electrical and electronic items, especially from China. Of course, we are doing Make in India initiative. We are doing production under Make in India initiative, but still we are doing imports. We are importing the things, especially in the electrical and electronic items, from China as well. And also most of the Fortune 500 companies, they are having their shops or facilities also in China. So let's talk about what is the outcome of globalization. So we are talking about globalization, we are trying to connect with various nations, why we are connecting with various nations, how it is going to help us and all. And now we are talking about the outcome of globalization. What is the outcome we are expecting from this? So we are connecting with other nations. So what is the benefit for us? What kind of services especially we are taking the support in this globalization approach? Most of the activities includes accounting and bookkeeping services, legal services, HR related services. If you want to recruit some manpower, if you want to provide some training to the manpower, in terms of medical transcription based activities, in terms of research and development activities, in terms of business applications, outsourcing, which is one of the important area activities. We are talking about all these activities through outsourcing. As you all know, what is outsourcing? Organization is lying somewhere in some other nation. We are trying to provide some service to that country, that company from here. So their activities are outsourced. So we are there to help you. We are there to help your help and fulfill your needs of business. In such a way, what type of outsourcing activities we are discussing here? These are all the activities which we can think, whether it is accounting and bookkeeping, clinical advices, medical transcription, HR, legal services, business applications, business processes, all such comes under the outsourcing activities, and this is the best outcome on the major outcome of globalization. And when we talk about the impact, is there any impact of globalization? Whether it is positive or negative, definitely there is some impact for any activity. Similarly, for this globalization also we have an impact. So what is that impact? Whether it is a positive impact or it is a negative impact. So the basic aspects which we can see here in the impact, where there is a competition even from the other low cost countries such as Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brazil, the Eastern Europe countries. There is a competition even from the other nations, but still we are trying to create some impact. So what is the impact we are trying to create? The most important advantage of globalization is outsourcing. As we discussed in the previous slide also, through outsourcing what kind of activities that we are trying to connect with other nations and trying to support. In the same way, how this outsourcing is going to help the companies, and where India is playing one of the important role in this, in terms of the skill sets that we possess with our manpower. The dynamic skill sets that we possess in our country, that is playing a very important role in the entire world. You can see the top companies, they are leading by the Indian nationals. So the skill sets, especially the dynamic skill sets which we are talking about, it is creating a very important and impactful outcome for this globalization approach. At the same time, the favorable position that we have for global outsourcing, many companies, they are trying to come and invest in our country in terms of whether it is IT or IT enabled industries or services. So they would like to take the support of Indian nation, and they would like to invest in our country and expand their business operations, as well as get the support from our country, especially from the dynamic skill set that we have in our country. And this is also helping our economy to boost our GDP as well, and that is a point which comes here in terms of talking that India is striving hard for the, or maybe leading its way for the 5 trillion economy. So we are trying to improve our GDP as well, and one of the very important impactful point here is the development of infrastructure, such as roads, whatever the kind of infrastructure we are trying to develop, whether it is an airport or a seaport or whatever it is. So we are trying to develop our infrastructure as well through this, and we are also trying to improve the quality in terms of our living standards, or the living conditions and standards that we are having. And here we are talking about a small activity, that is, India is aiming to reach 5 trillion US dollar economy by 2026. Some of you may be having this question in your mind. What is this question, whether it is possible for us or not, whether we can be a 5 trillion US dollar economy by 2026 or not. There are several opinions from various experts, like whether we can be at 5 trillion economy at the earliest or not, or what is possible, what is not possible, why it is possible, why it is not possible, how it is possible, and what we have to do for that. So in this context, when we talk about this particular point, what are the pros and cons that we have for our nation to become a 5 trillion US dollar economy? India is mostly focusing on various sectors, especially you can see in the slide the sectors 15, about some 15 important areas which the country is mainly focusing on, whether it talks about the mobile manufacturing and specified electronic components area, or especially the government is also focusing on pushing these particular sectors, these particular areas, which is having a strong potentiality in improving or in boosting up the GDP, the growth of the nation, and seeing that how best we can contribute from this in terms of food products, and especially when we talk about the automobiles and auto components in that area. Likewise, pharmaceutical, you can see in the South Indian context, if we talk about the pharmaceutical area, Hyderabad is also considered as an economy, as a country, as a part of the country where it is having the pharma city. And how telecom and networking products, they are playing a vital role in the contribution for the growth of the nation, as well as we have food products. Food industry is also contributing a lot for the growth of the country. Likewise, we have textile, we have drone manufacturing. When we talk about the recent emerging areas such as drone technology, where it is being used even in the rural areas, especially in terms of farming or in terms of the construction area, where this drone technology is being used. And so all such areas which have a strong potentiality in contributing something for the economic growth, which helps to see that how India can reach its target of $5 trillion US dollars economy. And already for this, the role played by the government is very important. Of course, we accept that the role played by the government is very important in this. So government is also trying to do its best by the way of installing 500 gigawatts capacity of plant, and coming out with an investment of 143 lakh crores in the national infrastructure pipeline by 2024-25 is the target, and government is working on it, as well as $300 billion of investment is lining in for electronics manufacturing by 2024-25. These are some key targets which were coined by the government to reach this particular target. And when we talk about the foreign direct investments as well, the government is trying to see that how best they can line more investments, where about $81.97 billion investment has lined in 2021 for the 2021 financial year, and still we are trying a lot. When we talk about the rural context, the approach of globalization is going to help in 5 important and 5 promising areas, especially when we talk about agriculture, agro-based industries, or farming and non-farming sectors. The strong linkage that we are trying to connect between these 2 areas, and the role of MSMEs in rural industrialization, the linkages that we are talking about in the rural and urban landscape. So how we are transforming that, this is very important, where the role of agriculture will continue definitely, which is very important for achieving the food security, increasing income and generating more employment opportunities in this area, because it's not a traditional practice. Even agriculture is also considered as a modern practice these days, with the support of which is mostly driven by technology and markets. As well as when we talk about this agro based industrialization, in this also the growth which we are focusing, which is gradually shifting from farm sector to the non farm sector as well. Not only farming in India, but also non farming sectors also has the prominent role to play. So which includes the post harvesting rural activities such as agro based processing or packaging, cold chains, cold storage, transport, especially in the supply chain. All these plays a very important role. But this also requires a kind of favorable regulatory environment to stimulate the private sector investment also in the rural areas. And as we are talking about the third important area, that is linkage between farm and non-farm sectors. So in this is also trying to create a kind of income and jobs in the rural areas, but especially in the farm areas. Industrialization may be evolved mostly from the production to processing and marketing, whereas the linkage that we are trying to construct or create between this farm and non-farm sectors, this is basically trying to provide a support by collectivizing the farmers through FPOs or farmer interest groups, and this is also trying to provide some facility for the small and marginal farmers to enhance their income levels. So this will basically help not only farming areas in the country, but also we have a potentiality or scope in the non-farm areas as well. So this kind of change is happening even in the rural areas. So where either the farming community or any other community in the rural areas, they are not only depending on the farm areas, but they are also focusing on non-farm areas. And when we talk about the role of MSMEs, micro, small and medium enterprises, this is also playing a very important role in developing the rural industrialization. As we know that it is contributing to 32% of the gross value in the national level, where it is providing employment to about 111 million workers, and it's projecting to generate more jobs to across 150 million workers through this MSME, under this MSME, and this is basically also trying to create necessary infrastructure, as well as also trying to provide vocational education based practices and skill development in the manufacturing and business planning areas. And the fifth important area, or the fifth promising area which we are talking here, is the rural and urban linkages. So how we are trying to connect a linkage between rural and urban areas. So strengthening this kind of linkage between the rural and urban, from the farms to the small towns or to the mega cities, which will benefit the labor and which will help in production, distribution, marketing, and also providing services to the both areas, and especially in also gaining environmental sustainability. So what kind of new opportunities we can create, what opportunities are already emerging in this area. So to understand this and to create a prominent role, this will also help the economy to boost up their GDP, and also see that how such urban areas and the kind of connectivity with the rural areas is possible, and how we can integrate the new technologies in these areas as well. So it is not only about knowing the technologies, but also trying to integrating those technologies with the rural areas, which is very important. So with this, India will eventually become a $5 trillion economy, but the only question is, will it happen sooner or later? Let's see that how far India can reach this target, and globalization is also playing a very important role in this. Definitely we have to connect with other nations, we have to exchange our resources so that we all can grow together, and this will also create a borderless economy, where we need not create any kind of, we need not create any borders for our nation. We can do our business with any other countries, we can take the support of different nations, we can exchange our resources, exchange our potentialities and see that how well we can develop and how well we can become a best possible nation for all the countries across the world. Thank you for watching this video. We'll come out with different topics on supply chain management in the coming videos. Thank you. Namaste.